going to talk a little bit about a journey that I went on with an organization from beginning to end, about almost 10 years, and how important it was for leadership and the governance that comes from leadership and the commitment to be able to take this journey of excellence in this organization. The organization I'm talking about is a medium-sized company. It is a subsidiary of a Fortune 500 company, AmerisourceBergen, which is the third largest pharmaceutical distributor and manufacturer in the United States. And this is the particular subsidiary that actually manufactures the drugs. And they also, you can see a number of the brands that these drugs that we produce, many of them sold here in Asia, in the Middle East, and so forth. So we had very demanding customers, not only the pharmaceutical firms we were manufacturing for, but their customers as well that we had to answer to. I want to kind of start out with talk just a few minutes about Lean Six Sigma, because this was a very, very important methodology that we adopted in the organization and drove throughout the whole organization so that everybody in the organization during this 9-year period was playing a role in implementing Lean in the organization and also using Six Sigma as a measurement and also an improvement tool. This may be a slide that some of you are aware of or not, but I think it's a very simple way to express Six Sigma. So when you have a product, sometimes we think, let's say this product is either works or it doesn't work, all right? But with Six Sigma, we look and try to determine what are all the individual things that could be wrong with this pencil. Not just if it works or not, but does it have ink? Is it printed properly? Is the pocket holder working? Does the thing work? Does it have ink? All of those are possible defects for this one item. And it's important that we not just say this is a defective pen or a good pen. It's important for us to identify specifically all the things that could go wrong with this pen and to record them so that we can identify what is the root cause of why this pen is not operating at 100%. So when we look at Six Sigma, we're not just looking at defective pens or non-defective pens. We're looking at, for example, of the 6 possible things that can go wrong with each of these pens. So you can see that the defects might go up higher, but they're very specific defects that we can zero in on and we can make improvements to when we know exactly what the problem is, not just generally defective pins. So when you look at this little chart that we have here, to explain the Sigma level, you can see there's 1 through 6 Sigma. Of course, there's grades in between each of those. And we're looking at what we call the yield. The yield is how many good items come through the process without having anything done except the main manufacturing process. And so if we have a broken spine for our pocket, that would be one defect. If it doesn't write, it would be another defect. So these are the number of defects, or the yield, the number of good products that come through the service line or the production line. And then linked to that is what we call defects per million opportunities. So there's 6 opportunities for this pen, as an example. So you can see there that what we've done is identified the number of defects, opportunities, and then we've, a number of colleagues and myself over the years have put this next column together, which you may not have seen. And this is the result of the lost number of sales in dollars because we have defective products. And you can see that these numbers can be huge. And we say lost sales because it is because people stop buying our product because it's not working. It's because they tell other people about how terrible our product is, for example. And so this percent of sales should be relatively alarming to leaders in an organization that these sales are falling because our products are not meeting the customer requirements. And so you can see that the percentages there, you can go back and easily determine this for your particular products. And you can see the huge number of dollars that are wasted if we're not concentrating on solving the individual defects in products, not just a defective product. This is the tools that we used primarily, and I'm going to tell you about our whole journey, but I think it's important to know that these are the things that we implemented very early in the organization so that we could assess where our problems were and then attack those problems with improvement teams. And so you can see here the top arrow is the DMAIC process, the 5-step problem-solving process, that once we know what the defects are that are happening, we can use this 5-step process and these tools to really help us find out what the root cause is, identify the root cause, and once we have that root cause, then to develop a solution or solutions that make the defect go away so that we can move to 100% good product in everything that we do. The bottom arrow is lean. We combined the lean process with Six Sigma. Six Sigma, of course, eliminates defects, but the lean process eliminates waste. We have so much waste in what we do in an organization. When we have defects, we have obviously waste. When we get returns, we have waste. There's delays in the production process. Sometimes we overproduce a particular item that we need. And so looking at the organization and getting lean out of the process or making lean processes coupled with defect reduction is a very, very powerful approach in an organization. This is just a snapshot of the almost 10-year journey that we went on, leading for us to win the Baldrige Award. And I'm going to break it down and talk about some of the key items that we did in each of these steps. So as we start this, I might say I'm going to do a little bit of this from memory because I have cataracts that I'm waiting to have surgery on, and I can't read the slides very well, but I should know my material, shouldn't I? Of course. Okay. So importantly, and I think it goes without saying that one of the things that we need to do as quickly as we can is to get buy-in and leadership from the senior executives in the organization. And there's a lot of ways to go about this. One way that a lot of organizations use is do some demonstration projects to train some people, identify an important defect, work on that defect, work on leaning the process to show the executives, the senior executives, how powerful this process can be. Another way is hopefully executives are somewhat enlightened and maybe they will actually champion, some executive in your organization will champion this in the organization to develop some demonstration projects that are convincing to middle and senior management that this is the way that the organization ought to operate. And so the first thing was in our organization was to train the senior executives and to say, well, you need to be trained to support this. We'll do some demonstration projects, but they won't be as successful as they could be if we don't have you as the leadership team behind us, driving us, and challenging us, and accepting our work as we go forward. So we trained all of the executives in a 6-day session, 3 days on Lean, 3 days on Six Sigma, combining those and making very sure that they knew what their responsibility was as senior executives to make this process successful in the organization. We also trained all of the middle managers in a 6-day program as well. And so we began doing some what we call greenbelt projects, some easy projects that would attack but still have a big impact on the performance of the products, the services, the organization. This is a chart which shows you the different, as we progressed. This is not what we had at the very beginning. This is when we were much more mature. But to kind of show you where we were trying to go with this, to involve everyone in the organization. to have black belts which had special skills to really statistically challenge and to do projects. Green belts, we had our engineers, our mechanics, a special course for them in Lean Six Sigma, if you can see that. So everyone, including the supervisors, the managers, had to be trained in this eventually. Not everyone at first. We started small, 20 people, maybe 40 people the next year, 80 people the following year, and so forth, to develop these skills throughout the organization. This is just an example of what a project portfolio. It's very important that you try to scan the organization, have methods and metrics, and develop a sense of where are we performing well and where are we not, so that we can, if you will, take a look at these projects and prioritize them. Which ones are going to have the biggest impact on the customer, on the product, in the organization. So this is just an example. When people are freed up, then they're ready to be assigned to another project, and so we want to keep a portfolio of projects so that we always know which are the next important ones to tackle in the organization. This is an example of what we call a post-project metrics. We continually, after we do a project, we continually monitor the project. There are measures put in place that tell us if we are performing well, if the project is returning the results that we anticipate. And so we look at that and we measure that in terms of dollars, in terms of process metrics, in terms of customer satisfaction, employee satisfaction, whatever is the most key component or measure for that project. And we do this for 6 months. The senior executives monitor this for 6 months, and if the project continues to be sustained successfully for 6 months, then this is only looked at the department heads rather than the entire senior executive staff. So as we move on, and you can see I have a timeline here of which year you get some sense of it. And so here we have, we started process management here, and process management here was where we document every process. We process map every process in the organization. We identify who the customers are, internal or external, who the input comes from, suppliers or another department. We identify from the person who is the customer, what are their quality requirements, whether they're internal customers or external. So we are very specific on what it is we are trying to accomplish to make our customers satisfied. And so we go through the whole organization, again, number of years to take us to get there, so that we're very clear on what each department, what each person is supposed to do that is going to meet the requirements of the internal or external customer. Because of course we have multiple processes that flow together to deliver the final product, and so we have both internal and external customers that we need to care for. And we also had the opportunity to have automated manufacturing data on all of our 400 different machines that we use to produce our products. And this was very helpful. We could, at my desktop, any executive at desktop, could look at a particular production process and determine how well it's going in real time. And of course, this was most important for the supervisor of the particular product that was being manufactured to be on top of this and to identify any potential problems in the manufacturing process that might occur, to head them off before they might have been a significant issue or product. And then continuing on to some future years, we wanted to really drive down the time it takes to do a project, because if a project takes 6 months, then you're not going to get a return on that project for 6 months. So we wanted to drive that down to 2 or 3 months if we could, so that we could take advantage of that timeline and save money or deliver better quality products to the customer sooner. And so you can see there we tracked our projects over time, and you can see the different, if you will, distribution of the projects and where they were and where they were centered. And you'll notice that we were doing these projects, I would say, I should have mentioned this before, If you're going to start an opportunity program like this, don't just do it in manufacturing or operations. Also do it in all of your support areas so people don't say, oh, that's just an operations activity, that's just a manufacturing activity. You want it to be in all of your organization. And we have projects in accounting, in human resources, in sales, advertising. And so every area, we might not have a project in every one of those areas every time, but we look at what the project opportunities are in those areas, and we are working all the time, both in operations, service, and production. This is a chart that keeps track of the projects as they are completed. And we look at a number of things here, and of course, obviously, we look at dollars, hard dollars, soft dollars. We have particular metrics that are measuring individual features of a product or service with goals on them. And you'll also, I want to point out something here on the right. On the right, we have our 7 values. And we don't just choose our projects based upon dollars, but we choose them based upon, is it going to move the organization to accomplish and realize and live by its values? So you can see on the purple, we have our 7 values, and it's very important as we choose projects to choose those which are going to, in fact, instill and, if you will, support these values in the organization. This is just some dollar amounts. Of course, dollar amounts of savings are important. And for us, in many cases, when we made an improvement, we worked with our wholesale customers, and in many cases, we shared the cost savings. And in many cases, we did projects with our customers to help them reduce their costs, to help them provide us better quality, so that we both could, in fact, have better quality and reduce costs in the organization. Moving on to the next few years, here we have, we introduced Kaizen. Kaizen events are very quick projects that people at every level in the organization can do. It's a much simpler process. Still uses the same identification of the problem, verifying the problem, measuring it, analyzing it, improving it, and so forth. But this allowed us to bring all of our employees. We made a decision to bring all of our employees into the problem-solving process. This is maybe something more like a quality circle to some degree. But we use that 5-step Six Sigma process. They didn't get some of the more sophisticated tools, but they had a good toolbox so they could solve almost any problem that inquired. And we gave them every Friday afternoon. Every Friday afternoon, we closed work early so that they could work on these projects and get them done. I think it was a commitment to show them that we're really serious about everybody being involved in quality and making sure that their customers are satisfied and that we're operating as lean as possible. And again, here I would say, and we included everyone in all of the support activities in the offices. And so you can see some of the projects here that were done in different departments that might surprise you. And it's amazing, the cost savings as you improve your processes as well as improve your quality that you're providing to your customers. Continuing on with our journey, and I should say something here. I'd like to tell you that I laid this 10-year plan out and everything worked perfect. That's not the case. The plan was very spotty, and we ended up moving ahead with things when an opportunity arose in our organization. So we had a need for benchmarking, and there was an opportunity there, and it was very important for us. That's when we got some interest in benchmarking and then began working on it at that particular time, given the fact that we had the resources. So this plan, I'd like to say that was perfect. It was my plan, but it wasn't. Some of the things were planned, but I would say probably half of the things happened as an opportunity arose in the organization. We depended very heavily on customer surveys. It was important for us to do that. I use this example because this was a customer survey that we did of some of those major customers that I showed you on the very first slide. And you can see that one customer, there's a lot of red there. And it was very interesting because we had no idea, our sales and marketing people had no idea of how unhappy this customer was with what we were doing for them. And this particular survey that we did really blew us away. I mean, this was a multi-million-dollar customer that was not very satisfied, but had not brought their problems to us at all, only in a survey. So very, very effective to be hopefully to have good relations with your customers. At least we had good relations enough that they would put it on a survey, even though they didn't bring it to us personally. Surveying your suppliers, very, very important. You need to keep your suppliers very happy, just like you need your customers to be very happy. They're part of your value chain, and you want them to be energetic and enthusiastic and want to work with you and to be a good customer to them. So we think it was very important that we survey our suppliers for the things that we get, because we're dependent on them. If we don't get the drugs, the materials, and so forth from our suppliers on time in 100% quality, we cannot deliver our products to our customers. And then, of course, we also were big on surveys, if you will, employee surveys, culture surveys, whatever you want to call them in our organization. Because if you don't have happy employees, you're not going to get good products or good services. So these were the 7 values that the senior leadership team worked very hard on to identify, so that we could then say, if these are the values that we want to achieve, that our employees want to achieve, we should find out what they are, and we should find out what the employees think. So we started out with a survey. We kind of had these 7 in mind, and we created individual statements for each of these 7 items, asking the employees, how good were we? For example, if you take empowering employees, the question might be, does my supervisor allow me to give negative feedback to them and allow us to make improvements? And so we had a 5-point scale to see if it was happening. And if we found out that it was very low, then we could take some kind of an action to make sure, because that should be part of our values. And so what we wanted to do is make sure that if our values were not being fulfilled in the way that the employees understand them, then we need to make changes and be responsive to that. So we developed these, and each one of these had something in the neighborhood of maybe 10 or 12 questions. And this was the results that we got back from the survey. I don't know if I have any example questions. I'll look in a moment. But anyway, so you can see how the employees rated us as either being good, yes, we were very strong for each of these questions, or no, we were very weak. We used a 5-point scale with a neutral. So I guess the question that I just posed to you is a good example. And of course, one of the things that came back from this survey was that we were very weak in our reward and recognition programs for all the things that the employees do in the organization. So this is an example of a senior executive team that was made up of vice president level people, as well as mostly hourly and salaried employees, working through what they felt we needed to do to respond to this area of being a good employer in terms of rewards and recognition and respect for our employees. So this is a number of different award programs, individual programs, team programs, and so forth, that that team put in place to improve that particular aspect of our values around our people. And so this was crafted and implemented in the organization as a response to that. Pushing the wrong button. And again, we proceeded with another year. Remember, we're supporting and growing all of these other things that we have done previously, but adding new activities that we needed desperately in the organization. So one of the things that we discovered a little bit late in the process, something called value stream analysis. So we were very rigid in terms of looking and identifying our processes and the customers and the suppliers in the process and what the metrics should be that we would to provide 100% quality. But we came across this value stream analysis, and here's where you take everything that's done for a particular product and you link those processes together from the time that the raw materials or maybe even the sales order comes in with every process in your organization until it leaves to go to the customer. Value stream mapping, and this is value stream metrics. So once you map that and you understand that, then you have a very good idea of inputs and outputs of all of the needs to be done and the quality that needs to be done through the organization. It's really a throughput mechanism. And so this is just an example of some of the value streams we had and some of the metrics that we're showing you along the way, so that everybody took ownership of that product. Not just someone took ownership of maybe producing the pills, somebody else the packaging, if you will, somebody else the shipping. Link them all together so they could see what is necessary for a 100% good product to come out and work together to make that happen. This is a great example. This is bottling stream for, sometimes we primarily put pills in bottles, right? So this is the value stream for manufacturing the pills, putting them in the carton with the instructions and shipping them and so forth. And so you can see here that in this 18-month period, when we started measuring on a value stream basis, not just on an individual basis from a department or for a defect, you can see that we went almost over 50% improvement in the return on bottling, by everybody really working together and understanding the value stream. Highly recommend it. But I don't think we would have been ready to do it if we hadn't done some of those things ahead of time in the individual departments themselves. And then continue as we move on. We continually tried to develop our strategic planning process, and it went through a number of iterations. But because we had all of our metrics at the bottom of the organization, we had some at the top, we endeavored to link those together so that we could know what strings do we need to pull for us to make a difference in our top-level metrics. We could look down, and we could look down to see what are the lower-level metrics that drive those metrics. Those top-level metrics don't drive themselves. They are a result of things that we're doing throughout the organization. And so we endeavored to not only define more clearly what those top balance card, scorecard metrics should be, but where in the organization at different levels we did something. And we actually did a lot of correlation analysis, and we're very surprised at some of the things that we did lower in the organization that had great effect on the top, and some of the things we were doing lower in the organization that didn't have any at all. So this really allowed us to focus in more effectively on those processes that really drove the high-level metrics in the organization, both financially as well as non-financially. Here's an example of one of our top-level metrics: first time right, customer documentation review. In the pharmaceutical industry, we have a tremendous responsibility for documenting everything that we do. If you haven't been in that industry, you don't know what documentation is. We have to do everything has to be documented. And then our customers that I showed you at the beginning, we have to send that, not only send the product to them, but we also have to send all the documents that document all the steps that went through our organizations and the metrics that went with those steps and the tests that had to be done through those steps. And so if we didn't get the documents right, the customer might have received the product, but the customer isn't going to pay us, and the customers can't use that product until they're satisfied that we've done everything 100% to produce that particular product. So this was a very important top-level metric, maybe one that wouldn't be useful for your organization, but first time right customer documentations meant the customer was satisfied very quickly. They paid us very quickly for the services. So as it turned out, after about 9 years, we applied for the Baldrige Award, which I think you all are familiar with. And we won the Baldrige Award in the state of Illinois. The way the Baldrige works now is that you have to first win your state award before you can go for your national quality award. And so we won this award in, I think, 2012. I can't see it anymore, but I'm pretty sure it was 2012. And then I retired. I felt my job was done. And I was also getting old, so I thought it was time for me to retire. The company didn't go on to do the Baldrige nationally, but I was very pleased that we won the Illinois award. So let me because of my eyes, I'm going to have to move over here. I don't have these memorized. I'm sorry. So let me share with you some best practices that I think that were so useful in our engagement of our workforce and our customers in this journey. So the first thing I say that's very important is hire or engage a consultant or an expert to help you plan, develop, and execute. I see as a consultant that I've been for many years that many programs fail because they don't really have the right person there that can talk to everybody in the organization and tell them when they're doing things right and when they're doing things wrong and what needs to happen. So I think this is very important. Research and empower your customers to provide you with their requirements. You need to really find out what do your customers really value in what you're providing them in a product or a service. I've worked in many service organizations, banks, hospitals, as well as manufacturing companies. And so it's important that you go and find what your customers really want, not just what you think they want, what they really want. Train, empower, measure, and reward your employees as much as possible. They're the key to your success. They're the key to absolutely to your success. Be persistent and require, I think I have 5 minutes. No, I have 2 minutes. This is the last slide, I think. Be persistent and expect and require measurement in every process that you work on. Turn measurement around fast so that people get the feedback as quickly as possible, not 30 days or more. Give it to them within a week if possible, what is going well, what's not going well, and then give them the time and the tools to improve on it. Train and expect everyone to work in teams and to make improvements in their individual work and their department's work. Expect poor performance to be quickly addressed by projects. So wherever you have a problem, get someone in there as quick as possible to begin analyzing and fixing it. Don't forget to get measures for softer side of things, all right? Not just the things that we can measure with instruments and so forth. Things like, as I was saying, customer surveys, provider surveys, employee surveys, those kinds of things. Don't forget to reward liberally. Reward your people liberally. It doesn't always have to be money. There's other things that they want. It's important that you find out what are those other things that your employees want besides money. And I think you'd be very surprised what that might look like. Reward liberally for complete, timely, and improving metrics, for acting quickly when poor performance is indicated, and engaging in improvement projects. And last of all, strategic planning with self-assessment, projects, measurements, reward and recognition for meeting and exceeding the plan. So those are my parting remarks for you, and kind of the rules that I live by, and I would hope that this has been somewhat helpful to you as you're somewhere, I hope, on your journey to excellence. Thank you very much.